Ladies and gentlemen, in today's video, I am going to be ranking every single WrestleMania main event. I'm doing this out of the request that came from my last wrestling video, which was me ranking every WrestleMania, and I thought this was a fun idea as well, so thank you. But I do just want to say, again, this is my opinion. Some people don't understand what that word means. Like, this is all personal opinion. Nothing in here is factual. So have fun, see my point of view, instead of getting upset that our takes don't match up, and there is a good amount of people that need to hear that. Couple of plugs as always. Don't forget to use code WyattzWorld on G Fuel or Prize Picks, where you can save yourself a discount on any G Fuel products or match up to $100 of your first deposit. But that's all I got for plugs. Let's get into the video. Alright, so we got the wonderful tier list here, and the categories we are going to be separating the WrestleMania main events into are the greatest, classics, solid, not ideal, and trash. I also really like whoever made this tier list. It's awesome. Anyway, kicking off with WrestleMania 1, once again, we've got the main event, which was Hulk Hogan and Mr. T versus Roddy Piper and Paul Orndorff. Not ideal, I get it. Looking back at the time, Mr. T was one of the most popular people in the world, Hogan was the biggest wrestler in the world, and Roddy was like the biggest villain, and I'm sure Paul was too. But that is not a WrestleMania main event. If I saw Cody Rhodes and Jason Statham teaming up to fight the Judgment Day for a main event of WrestleMania, I'd be pissed. Moving on, we got WrestleMania 2. This one gets a lot of hate, but the main event was Hogan versus King Kong Bundy in a steel cage. Like I said in the last video, it's nostalgic for me because my dad had it on VHS and I watched it all the time, man. I thought it was a solid match. I thought it was fun to watch. Yeah, it was cheesy. It was really corny to see Bobby Heenan spreading blood on King Kong Bundy's head. Watching it on a VCR when I was a kid, seeing two huge guys fight in a cage with blood, like, I thought it was cool. Next up, we got WrestleMania 3. This one, I will say, will go down as one of the greatest main events of all time. Hogan versus Andre, because this match, I can confidently say every father shows his son at some point. Every wrestling fan will show this to a non-wrestling fan at some point. This match is talked about in literal, like, history classes in high school. The match itself, I mean, it's slow paced because Andre was about 8 feet tall and 500 pounds, but they do a really good job at protecting him when they make even the slightest hits from him look like they blow you away. Obviously, this one ends with the infamous body slam and leg drop as well, but I do believe that this will always be talked about as one of the best main events of all time. Now we've got Macho versus Ted DiBiase. This was the WrestleMania that had like 80 matches, and these two were gassed in the main event of it as well. I'll put it in solid because they were 2 stars, but I mean, they were gassed. And the crowd was tired too. It was just too much in one night. Now we've got WrestleMania 5, the Mega Powers Explode. The main event was Macho versus Hogan. This one is a classic. I do think Randy should have won looking back at it now, but it's not like I was even alive during the time. But this was one of my first instances of seeing, you know, two former brothers, best friends, turning on each other and going at it, you know, going back and looking at it. Up next, we got WrestleMania 6, Hogan versus Warrior, another classic. This was for the IC title and the WWF title, and the right person won, which was the Ultimate Warrior. And this one always sticks with me as one of the first times I've ever really had the crowd impact a match, dude. They went nuts in this, especially for the time. Like, it sounded like a modern day pop. I will say I wish Warrior had a more menacing finisher though. And now we got WrestleMania 7, Hogan versus Sergeant Slaughter. I don't think it deserves a trash, but it's not ideal to me. I didn't like Sergeant Slaughter as a performer. Like, still going back, I just thought he was slow. Thought he had a very limited moveset. I didn't think he was very entertaining, so having him main event a WrestleMania against Hulk Hogan, like, at least he didn't win, but it's just not the most entertaining cup of tea. Moving on to WrestleMania 8, we got Hogan versus Sid Justice at the time. Trash. That one sucked. Pretty sure it ended by disqualification, and it was just like 10 minutes of what appeared to be clotheslines. Moving on, we got WrestleMania 9. Oh, this was trash. So it was Yoko and Brett, where Yoko won in like a 9-minute match, and then Hogan came out, got a title match, and beat Yokozuna in like 22 seconds. To end WrestleMania. Like, that WrestleMania was complete garbage, and the main event did not help it. Now we got WrestleMania 10. again, this was Bret Hart beating Yokozuna. Not ideal, both of them competed multiple times that night. The ending of the match was dumb, and having a 500-pound man in the main event, like, you're very, very limited to what you can do. And we got WrestleMania 11, Lawrence Taylor versus Bam Bam Bigelow. Trash. This would be like having the main event of WrestleMania 40 being TJ Watt versus Omos. No. WrestleMania 12, Shawn Brett Iron Man match. I'm gonna say classic. I'm not gonna say the greatest because it's an hour, man. That's a long watch. But again, iconic. How many times do you see the picture of Shawn Michaels crying on the championship after he won it? Probably every time you see any sort of WWE programming. Now we got Sid versus Undertaker at WrestleMania 13. I hated this one. Just watched it too because I'm watching all of Taker's Mania matches. For one, Sid was not the best performer. For two, apparently he shit himself during this match because he was upset about the outcome. For three, it ended up just becoming about Bret Hart because he was upset about the match earlier with Stone Cold where he came out and interfered, which ended up costing Sid the championship. Yep, that's how the main event ended. I'm gonna say it was trash. Like, I really did not enjoy that at all. Now we've got the WrestleMania 14 main event, Shawn Michaels versus Stone Cold with Mike Tyson as a special guest referee. I actually think this is one of the greatest and most iconic main events in WrestleMania history. Go back and watch this and you watch the build-up leading up to this match. It's the heel champion Michaels versus the red-hot Stone Cold, where the special guest Mike Tyson and Stone Cold hate each other. Like, it appeared that there was gonna be no way Stone Cold walked out of here as the champion. Then after what was a slugfest of a match, Stone Cold hits Michaels with a stunner. Tyson hits a very fast 3 count, then after the match when Stone Cold wins, Tyson knocks out Shawn Michaels. Like, it was just mind-boggling jarring. Next up, we got WrestleMania 15, Stone Cold versus The Rock 1. It's definitely a classic. It holds its significance in WrestleMania history and WWE history, but it's just hard to talk about this match when we got another one we'll be talking about in just a little bit. Now we got WrestleMania 16, which was the Fatal 4-Way main event with a McMahon at every corner. Triple H versus The Rock versus Big Show versus Mick Foley, and yeah, I still think that, actually, I'll say not ideal. I won't say it was trash, because the potential was there. This match was loaded, it had a cool stipulation, but if you go back and watch it, like, it's way too long, and it's just not that entertaining, and I gotta add, sorry, it's an elimination Fatal 4-Way too. That's why it's so long. And Triple H retained too, because for what will be the second year in a row when we talk about it, Mr. McMahon screwed Dwayne. Now we got WrestleMania 17, Rocky versus Steve 2. This was probably the best WrestleMania main event ever. Go back and watch this if you haven't. It is unbelievable. I think there is like 65 finishing moves, 25 chair shots, 3 gallons of blood. I mean, it's just fucking outrageous, but in the best way possible. And yeah, at the end, it's again Mr. McMahon coming out and just screwing over The Rock. That'll bring us to Mania 18, Jericho versus Triple H for the Undisputed Championship. This match, I think it gets a lot of shit. It's like another match that we'll be talking about in a little bit. Like, this is widely regarded as one of the most disappointing main events, but I really don't think so. I think the crowd was just really drained. I mean, realistically, they had like one match in between them and The Rock and Hogan. Like, they were screwed. Also, Triple H won this match with a cool pedigree counter when Jericho came off the top rope. And now we got WrestleMania 19, Kurt Angle versus Brock Lesnar for the Undisputed Championship. Definitely a classic. I mean, I think Angle survives like 3 or 4 F5s in this match. Brock does the infamous shooting star press off the top rope where he breaks his neck. You have probably some of the best technical wrestling you'll ever see, considering this is a literal Olympic wrestler versus a collegiate champion wrestler. This was a banger, and Lesnar won with a broken freaking neck. Now we're on to WrestleMania 20, where we've got Triple H versus Michaels versus Chris Benoit, who we can't really acknowledge or talk about. Sucks because this was a brilliant story. There's a beautiful moment at the end with Chris and Eddie after, you know, Chris won. The match goes down as a classic, but I'm not gonna give it a goat. On to Mania 21, we got Triple H versus Batista. I think it's a classic. Triple H passed the torch to Batista after Batista won the Rumble. Obviously, the story leading up to it involving Evolution was great. Looking back at Batista's career, this is obviously a monster moment. WrestleMania 22, John Cena versus Triple H. I'm gonna be honest, as much as I love this WrestleMania, as much as I enjoy this match, I will say the main event itself was just solid. It wasn't the most entertaining match. Cena won by submission after he had Triple H in the STF for what seemed like 10 minutes. And also, it was in Chicago, who hated John Cena, so I think it kind of took away some of the effect WWE was hoping to have. But nonetheless, it was a good match. WrestleMania 23, we got John Cena versus Shawn Michaels. Classic. This was definitely better than the Triple H match, even though, again, it ended by submission and John Cena retaining. This match had more spots, more moments. You had the pile driver onto the steel steps, couple false finishes in there, Plus, the crowd was back into a huge stadium. It was Ford Field, you know, compared to the previous year where it was just in a small basketball arena. WrestleMania 24, Edge versus Undertaker. I give it a solid. I still to this day do not think it should have been the main event of that WrestleMania. I think Cena, Triple H, and Orton should have main evented, and it would have meant a lot more to Orton's career, especially at the time, had he would have won that match in the main event. That being said, the match wasn't a bad match. There's the memorable moments of the referees constantly sprinting down after they're getting knocked out. Yeah, the Edge heads involved at the time, Vicky involved, and it was also the third WrestleMania to end by submission as Undertaker won with Hell's Gate. Now we're on to WrestleMania 25. This one got a lot of banter in my last video. Apparently people really hate this WrestleMania and the main event. This was the one I was talking about when I said it was like Mania 18, dude. The main event is not that bad. The crowd was dead. Dude, they went on 2 matches after Shawn versus The Undertaker, which is one of the greatest matches of all time, and then 1 match after John Cena picked up both the Big Show and Edge on his shoulders at the same time. Like, there was no energy to be given. However, I will say Triple H should not have won. Now we got WrestleMania 26, Taker and Shawn, streak versus career. I think it's one of the greatest main events of all time, and it's also one of the greatest rematches of all time. The story was amazing too. It was the perfect way for Shawn to go out. He was obsessed. He even said after Mania 25, he was content with retiring, but he wanted to go one more time and he wanted to do this story. And I'm sure glad we got it because again, it did not disappoint, but at the same time, it is nowhere near the first meeting that they had, just because that first match is literally unbeatable. All right, now we got WrestleMania 27, John Cena versus The Miz for the title. Garbage? That whole WrestleMania was trash. Now we got WrestleMania 28, John Cena versus The Rock. Without a doubt, one of the greatest main events in one of the greatest build-ups ever. I'm still convinced that beef was 100% real, that they hated each other, although I still wish John Cena would have won. WrestleMania 29, Cena versus Rock 2, I still give it a classic. People hate it because it's twice in a lifetime, technically, but it's not like it wasn't a banger of a match. Plus, The Rock was severely injured like 10 minutes into it, and he finished it out like a man. I didn't mind it one bit. That was also the first WrestleMania I ever ordered on pay-per-view. WrestleMania 30, Daniel Bryan versus Batista versus Randy Orton. Is the match a classic? Yes, but I still think it's overrated. I know, some of you guys are right. Sometimes predictability isn't a bad thing. But me not being the biggest Daniel Bryan fan, I didn't really care to see him in the spotlight like that or holding both the championships. Not that I hated him, I don't obsess over him. Now moving on, we got WrestleMania 31, Roman versus Brock 1 for the title. I actually think it's one of the best main events of all time as well. The hype was there, the buildup was there, the star power was there. The match was as brutal as it could be, and it ended in the most unpredictable way possible with the heist of the century, Seth Rollins cashing in. WrestleMania 32, Triple H versus Roman Reigns. Garbage, that was trash. The crowd was dead. I don't think people really wanted this main event to begin with because you knew there was no way in hell Triple H was going to continue to perform and be the champion. Roman was shoved down our throats for the 3rd year straight. I didn't care for it. And now we got WrestleMania 33, Roman Reigns versus The Undertaker. Horrible. Again, Reigns shoved down our throats. We know he wasn't losing. And on top of that, The Undertaker was in horrible condition and everybody knew it. The match was exactly what we thought it was going to be, a total shit show with a ton of botches. Now we got WrestleMania 34, Brock versus Roman 2. A lot of people hated this match. I love it still to this day and think it's a classic. At the time, Brock Lesnar's contract was legitimately expiring and he was literally saying that he was going to the UFC. Once again, guess who was in the main event? Roman Reigns. So everybody, including myself, thought sure shit, he's gonna win, Brock's gone. But nope, Brock took off his gloves, beat him to a bloody pulp, pinned him, and left the stunned crowd speechless. You guys can tell I've been sick of Roman for a really long time. WrestleMania 35, Becky versus Ronda Rousey versus Charlotte Flair for both women's championships. Classic. The match had the build up, it had the hype. Believe it or not, I genuinely do believe that was the correct call to be the main event there. They were the hottest topic at the time. But the finish was lousy. I heard it was a botch finish. Still watching the end of it, it just leaves a little bit of a sour grape in my stomach. Now we're on to WrestleMania 36, Night 1, Boneyard match, Taker versus AJ. Solid. It was a cinematic match, you know, it was weird. But for The Undertaker to look actually, you know, really good, and seeing WWE just full-blown be creative with it, it was a fun match. Now we got 36, Night 2, Brock versus Drew. Garbage. Nothing they could have done about it. There was no crowd. It was dead silent. It was awkward. I hated it. WrestleMania 37, Night 1, Sasha versus Bianca. Classic. That was an elite match, man. This will be another hot take by me, though. I don't like Sasha Banks. Never have been a huge fan of her either, though, so her in the main event, to me, not the best booking, but I did love the outcome of it, and I think the match was tremendous. All right, finishing up here with WrestleMania 37 Night 2, Roman versus Daniel Bryan versus Edge. Solid. I think this is incredibly overrated. I'm not gonna lie. Like, it's a good match, but I don't think that it's as great as everybody says it is. People think this is one of the best triple threats of all time. Like, I do not agree. WrestleMania 38 Night 1, KO versus Stone Cold. I give it a classic. That was fun. It was awesome to see Steve go again. I get it if you don't like it. I understand it completely, but I bought the KO Mania t-shirt because of this match, man. I loved it. WrestleMania 38 Night 2, Brock versus Roman 3, trash. That was horrible. For 1, the match ended early because Roman got hurt, and for 2, this is what caused pretty much a 2-year span of WWE only having 1 world title, and it was horrible. WrestleMania 39 Night 1, we got the Usos versus Kevin and Sami for the tag titles. It was a classic match, but again, you know, you can go back and watch it. It's unbelievable. Like, just, it's sincerely unbelievable. The amount of times Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens get kicked in the face and kick out, like, it's literally unbelievable. Like, it's not even realistic. And ending, we got Mania 39 Night 2, Roman versus Cody. It's another classic match. No denying it, but I still to this day say that the wrong person won and will hold this match accountable for me quitting watching wrestling for almost a year. I've been tired of Roman Reigns for literally like 8 years now, man. I don't want to see him hold the championships anymore. And that is it, ladies and gentlemen, for me ranking every WrestleMania main event. Feel free to show support to this video in any way you can, but in the meantime, I'm gonna hop off and get this edited so you guys can watch it on time. Hope you all have a great Tuesday, and as always, I will see you in the next video.